Let's just quickly go to the acting CEO of Brand SA, Thembile Ntombela, who's standing by with Katlego Legodi.
A very good morning to you, Eldrin, and to our viewers at home. You're right. We're standing with the acting CEO from Brand South Africa this morning, just to give us a sense of how South Africa is positioning itself to get the best out of this AGOA Forum and this meeting that is taking place here. You can imagine that we have over 500 companies, some from here in South Africa, that are showcasing here in the exhibition hub, and most of them are positioning themselves to ensure that they're not left behind. Their products get to penetrate the markets outside of South Africa, outside of Africa, and find meaning there in the United States. I'm going to bring into the conversation now the acting CEO of Brand South Africa, this being Thembile Ntombela, who joins us now to just give us a sense of how do we then position ourselves and these companies, these SMMEs and the likes, to really penetrate the market and get the best out of this AGOA Forum that is taking place here. Welcome to the SABC.
Thank you, Katlego.
Let us in on really Brand South Africa. Let's talk about the companies here. How are we pushing the Brand South Africa, that tag made in Africa, a tag outside of South Africa, outside of the continent into the US? How important is it, and how are we helping these businesses to get the best out of this forum here?
Thank you. I think it's important to acknowledge first that such a forum as big as AGOA really is it's here to strengthen and deepen the trade relations between the US and South Africa and the rest of the continent. Now, that brings about an opportunity for us to bring along our people of South Africa and provide a platform where they can showcase their craft and showcase their businesses. Because as you know, the agenda from an African continent perspective is that we must grow the women and youth and empower them. And this platform provides us that. So from a positioning perspective, I think it's perfect. And it's absolutely amazing that South Africa can be a strategic partner and almost like a de facto leader when it comes to the issues of growing with the rest of the African continent.
And it was also about investments, right? Where then we making these businesses to be attractive for investments to come into South Africa. We're also talking about issues of job creation as well, because when these companies tend to thrive, even outside of the country and into other markets, we see jobs also being created here.
Absolutely. So such forums are quite important. In fact, at the essence of AGOA is precisely to help the African continent with its challenges. We know we have huge inequalities, levels of inequalities, unemployment, and this is an opportunity then to expand the trade and grow exports from the African continent into the US market at no cost in terms of tariffs. So that also provides an advantageous point of position for those small, medium enterprises, because we share a notion that a country of origin does two things. It enhances the country's competitiveness and image, and number two, it actually attracts inward investment and the growth in terms of the economy, in terms of scale. And when that happens, then people are able to produce more and are able to create jobs for more people. And for me, the most important part is that how this thing almost benefits the layman on the streets. We do have the ordinary people that are pushing their businesses. We saw them as the president was doing a walkabout. So it's not an elitist platform, but it's a platform that resonates with people of South Africa. And that is why we have civil society here, because they are the representative of the masses' voice, of the communities. And it's important that labor and civil society, for the first time, they've been brought in here for a reason, because there's a need, there's a job that needs to be done, and that job speaks to acceleration of economic growth, acceleration of exports.
Thembile Ntombela, thank you very much for your time. The economy really at the heart of what is happening here today, Eldrin, and we know very well that you had the president as well talking about just drawing from the finance minister's budget, midterm budget policy statement, where he was talking about ensuring that South Africa gets to financial and fiscal prudence, and these are some of the avenues and the channels where we'll see SMMEs presenting themselves to really get the best out of what is happening here in the 4 days. We're going to take you now to a press briefing here at AGOA. This is taking place in the center, the media center.
We've been identifying border areas where there have been significant areas of criminality and theft and so on, and we've put in aerial surveillance and so on to try and get to the bottom of those. So on some of the critical border areas, we're getting quite operational and trying to sort that out. Once the roadmap is finalized and we've agreed, then I think that we'll really get into more private sector involvement in making the logistics system more effective and efficient. We need to work on the ports. We need to work on our railways. We need to get as much transport of goods as possible off the road onto the railways. And so those are the plans. So please understand that we only started all of this in June. We've got the structure in place. Government and business are working together. We've almost got the roadmap in place and will be agreed pretty soon. We're working very closely with the Transnet board, and them and the minister appreciate that private sector needs to get more involved, and we believe that toward the end of this year, early next year, we'll begin to see the results of that. We've given ourselves to the end of next year to actually make a significant difference in the work we're doing, and our estimation is that if we're successful, by the end of next year, we'll get to 3% growth and about 300,000 jobs, just from this initiative. That means we're treading water. That does nothing to unemployment. That does nothing to real growth. We need to grow at 6% or more to make an impact on unemployment. But as I said, it's to stop the slide, to give us the space to actually do this. And if we keep the momentum going, and if this partnership is what it is currently and remains what it is currently, with significant support and involvement of the President. We meet with the President every 6 to 8 weeks to look at progress and so on. We brief the media immediately after the meeting with the President, and we brief business after the meeting with the President. We've also put together a joint communications team with the government now, and hopefully we will get that going as well, and joint media stuff. So I hope that addresses that. Melissa, on trade with the U.S. So South African, I'm just trying to look here. So South Africa's exports under AGOA amount to about $1.7 billion, okay? South Africa exported over 23 billion rand worth of vehicles, about $175 million of agriculture, and so on, and others. I'm just trying to look for the figures for total South African exports to the U.S. I don't have it to hand, but I can send it to you if you can. Right, I'll get your details. I don't want to waste time here. Then on skills and so on, and the negotiations with the U.S. government. This is what I meant, that when we actually, and look, the negotiations will be primarily between the South African government and the U.S. government. The negotiations aren't with business. But we will certainly, I think there is an indication from DTIC, and I spoke to Minister Patel at the breakfast he hosted last week, and we agreed that we need to actually move forward together on this. We need to co-create what we want to involve in the negotiations, and the skills issue will obviously be a critical part of the negotiation. I think that when we get into those negotiations for a reviewed AGOA, we need to take those into account. We need to see what we need to do, and how the United States needs to enable us to do, to, one, ensure economic growth through AGOA, and to ensure that we build the necessary skills and we capacitate our industrial growth system through AGOA. And those are discussions that need to be had. Ultimately, the decision on AGOA from the U.S. side is taken by Congress. And so we also have to interact effectively with Congress. And certainly our suggestion to government, certainly to the Minister of DTIC, is that we try to also interact with Congress jointly, so that Congress is quite clear that business is supportive of this, and we also try to address any concerns that there might be there. So I think that that's got to be part of the negotiation, and we hope we move forward on that basis. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Kuvei.
All right, so there you have it. The business community also holding a press briefing just after the keynote address there of President Cyril Ramaphosa.